This video is brought to you by DataCamp. More on them later. Welcome to my channel, where I only build robots from video games released a decade ago. Okay, that's not true, but it's kind of beginning to be a pattern. So I asked, and a lot of you responded that you'd like to see how the robot sausage gets made. So that's what this series is going to be. I'm going to explain my design process every step of the way, show you all of my failures, and ultimately triumph against all odds. Unlike past videos, this is going to be a much longer format, way more casual and technical series that the algorithm does not want, but I would like to try out. And if you're a recent subscriber just here for Portal stuff, don't worry. I've got a big old Portal-y surprise for you at the end of this video, a real one, that I think you'll like for a very long time. I'm also doing this because I want to continue to challenge myself to learn and grow as a designer, and I want to build real robots. When everything's said and done, I'll share the files for this design too. Your caps are no good here. So the price of tons of content and my designs is $0. If you want to support the channel, I only ask that you stick around during the ad read, since I know y'all be skipping ahead. If I'm going to build a robot that's going to navigate in the real world, I'm going to want to hone my programming skills and dip my toes into machine learning. But how can I do that on my own? Well, luckily for me, today's sponsor is DataCamp, the online learning platform with over 350 courses that will take you from data fundamentals to being a data science maestro using Python, R, and SQL. No previous data experience required. See, I'm already acquainted with Python, but I probably only write a few scripts a year. So I'm going to take DataCamp's Python Fundamentals course. And once I'm done with that, I'll see if I have what it takes to go through with their image processing with Python course too. How cool would it be to actually train my robot to detect dirty coffee mugs? Maybe that's just me. But if you're ready to get started, you can head on over to datacamp.com for a free assessment so you can get a personalized learning plan for your data journey. Also, all of the first chapters of DataCamp's courses are free, so you can try before you buy. So head on over to DataCamp using my link in the description below. So if you're possibly bothered that I'm starting a new project before finishing Wheatley, well, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always starting new projects. See, switching between builds helps clear my mind when I'm stuck on something, or honestly when I'm just bored with a certain aspect. Painting, sanding. And this is going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I'm not talking about building a monowheel robot that balances. I'm talking about finishing what I started. See, I've wanted a Securitron for a long time, and I built a little mock-up a few years ago and then bought some more expensive parts, but then I just put them in a box and occasionally looked at that box and felt bad for a while, but then I put the box away to make the pain go away. So I'm going to start finishing all of my old projects. That's really important for me, just to be a better person. Also, I'm running out of space. All right, so how am I actually going to build a Securitron? First, I need to decide what is my actual goal and what are my constraints. I'm going to figure out the constraints first because that will refine what my goal can actually be and what is achievable. And the primary constraint for me is size. That's the biggest factor affecting cost and complexity. So I am going to build a miniature Securitron that stands about 3 feet tall. And yes, Muggy will be the default profile, but it's just got a screen for a face. I can show whatever I want. And how did I come up with that 3-foot figure? Well, I've already figured out the proportions based on some things that I already purchased, like this 4:3 aspect ratio screen and this go-kart wheel.
Well, actually, there's no such thing as LCDs in the Fallout canon. You should use a CRT if you want it to be authentic.
That's great, but I'm building a real robot, and could you technically put a CRT in something like this? Sure, but here, as an example, this is a comparably sized CRT that has an even slightly smaller display, and this weighs 16 pounds, and it's pretty chunky. This is way too power hungry, and generally CRTs don't enjoy falling down on their screen repeatedly, and I am very happy with the number of shards of glass in my eyes, which is currently 0. So I'm going to stick to my modern IPS LCD. Thank you very much. I might eventually machine a curved window to give it a sort of pseudo CRT effect, but I'm on the fence. I don't know. This is a really personal design for me, so as much as I like, I'm going to change the design. See, I'm not building a replica. As much as I like, I will keep some of the aesthetics of Securitrons and their overall general profile, but I'm going to improve upon the design as I see fit so that it works well in the real world. Like, what even are their hands? What is this? As for other goals, it should actually balance and steer on one wheel. That last part is going to be the real challenge of this design from an engineering standpoint. See, there are certainly plenty of balancing robots out there, but when it comes to a balancing monowheel, you have to change things up if you're going to steer in place. My current theory of how I'm going to accomplish this is with something called a control moment gyroscope. I'll explain that more when I learn to build the system, but the gist is that if I have a rotating mass and I tilt it, then I can create a gyroscopic torque that will move whatever system it's attached to in place. So it will have internal steering, which I think will look really cool because you won't be able to tell how it's working just from looking at it. And I also want to incorporate real computer vision. I'm serious about having it detect actual coffee mugs. That's not super hard to do. And I also want it to respond to basic voice commands so that I can control it that way, because also very plausible and super fun. So I've got my work cut out for me, but if you've seen my latest robot builds, hopefully you have the confidence that I can get this done and will join me for the ride. I don't see any reason why I can't be Cave Johnson and Robert House at the same time.
Initiating surprise in 3, 2, 1.
So as part of my ongoing effort to have weekly content, I'm starting a new series called Aperture IRL, where each self-contained episode I'll feature a new piece of aperture science technology and build it as best I can in the real world, which for the most part will be miniature because that's what I can afford. And I also want to set expectations. Obviously, I can't create things like miniature wormholes or hard light. It'd be a trillionaire if I could do that. But if I can make things look the way they work in the game, that would still be pretty cool. And eventually, I do want to build a full-scale animatronic replica of GLaDOS, but it'll take a little bit of time and a little bit more money to get there. So I hope you'll stick around for that ride, because for those of you who've been asking if I'm going to build insert your favorite thing from Portal 2 here, the answer is yes.